This is the PDU podcast, and you are watching How to Conduct a Successful Teleconference, presented by Dutz, and my name is Cornelius Fichtner. This is the sixth of the 6 basic modules. We looked at the hard tools, the time management, the content, the ground rules, the soft tools, and now Gene is going to empower you.
Empowerment. Empowerment is the box of tools used by the project manager to create and encourage constructive interplay by the teleconference participants. After all, there are many ways to encourage and discourage people from participating. What we want to focus on are the ways to encourage them. So I will present some methods that will help you enhance your participants' participation in the teleconference.
Before we look at those tools, what are the learning goals?
Well, Cornelius, the learning goals are how to empower participants to engage one another in the teleconference, how to empower attendees to constructively challenge each other, and how empowerment reflects positively on your leadership skills as a project manager. Empowerment, part of empowerment is inviting the right people. So be sure that all the core team members are part of the teleconference. In addition, there could be some exceptions to that. There might be someone else that you want to invite. That's your decision as the project manager. For instance, many times non-core team members should be included. Non-core team members could be a project sponsor, a customer, a vendor, or even another project manager. The thing is to focus on making sure that the right people are there to assist in making the decision, assist in giving you input. When in doubt, be sure to invite anyone you think might help the process. There are always differences as far as the individuals that are participating, and you want to make sure that you empower everybody that's part of the teleconference. There can be what's called cognitive constraints, behavioral constraints, emotional constraints. And by that, I mean maybe from a cognitive standpoint, you're dealing with people from different cultures, so they're going to interpret things a little differently. So that's where your soft skills come in handy, and that is to make sure that the individuals understand what's going on in the teleconference. Same with behavioral constraints. Maybe individuals are speaking and it's really tough for some people to hear. Once again, that's where you have to intervene as the PM to make sure that the person speaking, everyone understands what's being said and what's required. And then, of course, there's emotional constraints. Some people really like to talk with their hands, and you might not notice that because it's a teleconference, but you maybe pick that up in their voices. And it's not that they're angry, they just tend to express themselves that way, and you have to be aware of that. There are also some differences as far as gender, the way men approach meetings and the way women approach, or the way men participate and the way women participate. Many times men will they want to cut to the chase, and they tend to depersonalize things. And okay, what needs to be done? Let's get it done. Let's make the assignment. Let's make sure that we all follow through. Whereas women, on the other hand, tend to want to take a little more time to assess the situation, tend to personalize it more, and prefer to make sure that the problem is resolved before jumping to the next one. They are a little maybe less action-oriented in the sense of, wait a minute, let's make sure that we address this properly. Let's make sure that we get everybody involved. Let's make sure that we're not jumping the gun. These are some of the things that I've noticed, and also some of the things that I've read in various periodicals.
Right, and let's also make sure that we're clear here that one isn't better than the other, and that is obviously a generalization, and everyone is different. But there are clear differences
There are
when it comes to
differences,
gender
and
in
you have to be
teleconferences.
differences, and you have to be attuned to those
Yeah,
differences.
you have to understand them in order to make them work.
Make them
in your
work,
teleconference.
and that's the hard part, is to making them work. You understand what's going on, and it's really your goal is just I want to get it done, and I want to make sure everybody participates. So it's very important.
Mhm.
The next is age. I've noticed, and I put up here the people that are, say, less than 36 years old, and those that are older than 36. I've noticed that the people under 36 seem to be more open to group resolution, more of let's put a group together, let's work as a team and accomplish certain goals. Whereas people that are, say, older than 36 tend to be more self-reliant, tend to address things in a methodical way, and in some cases tend to be a little more reserved. And that's fine. It works. It works for both. What you want to do is bring them together and make sure that it works in the teleconference. Once again, as you mentioned before, Cornelius, one isn't better than the other. That's the way it is. Accept it, work with it, and move forward. Differences explored. What do I mean by that? Well, take the opportunity to get familiar with your surroundings. If you're fortunate and live in a large metropolitan area, you're going to have access to people of different ethnicities, different cultures. And it really helps in understanding other people, especially in this world today when, once again, you might be holding a teleconference with someone in Russia, someone in Africa, China, India, all over. Another way to kind of explore differences is to join an organization like Toastmasters. I think what you'll find in that organization are people from various lives, various ethnic groups, various racial groups, everything, and an opportunity to express yourself in front of those groups so that you get used to how to convey your message and also how to listen to others.
And how to lead meetings.
Which Toastmasters is excellent about that. You can take a course in culture, and you can do that either at a local college or you can do that online. And you'll find that it's very helpful in understanding other people. You can ask HR about diversity training. A lot of companies offer diversity training, and it's time well spent. You should take advantage of that. Inexpensive way is, of course, to explore Facebook. There are all types of different people on Facebook. It's a worldwide website, and you can engage people from everywhere and learn a little about other people. Another is the basic read. You can just pick up periodicals or books that'll inform you about culture.
Tons of books about culture and various walks of life. Yeah.
And in essence, the world has become smaller in the sense that we can access information about others. We can actually talk with others almost at will. And so you want to explore these differences. Differences explored, part 2. Practice active listening. It's very important. I know we've mentioned it before, but it's such a wonderful tool that you can develop and learn and demonstrate so that even people from another culture, if they detect that you're actually listening and trying, they go out of their way to assist you. You can also partner with a mentor. Maybe there's someone from another culture, another language. You can spend time talking with that individual and getting some insight. Look up something in Wikipedia. It's a very good tool and extensive information on culture, different ethnic groups, you name it, it's there, and it's free. You can visit an etiquette site so that you have a better understanding of what's acceptable behavior and what might not be acceptable behavior.
In the other culture.
And that's really a good tool because you You don't want to mistakenly say something and then find out later on you've offended somebody, and then you're going to have to spend time trying to correct that problem. And then you can also join an international association. That is a wonderful way of meeting people from different cultures, different countries, different racial groups, everything. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Right. I'm currently on the board of the PMI Orange County chapter here, and I believe we have people from 4 or 5 different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, on a 9-person board of directors.
And it makes it interesting, doesn't it?
It does.
And you learn a lot, and you learn how to work with different people, different cultures. Another tool in empowerment is soliciting feedback. If you want to be an effective project manager, you want to get feedback from people. And this can be done prior to a teleconference through an email, telephone call, or indirectly. It can be done through so-and-so heard such and such. I don't want to say rumor, but it's a way of getting some information prior to the teleconference. And it can be very helpful because it'll enable you to make sure that this information is part of the agenda and can be brought up during the teleconference. Once again, you really do want to stick with the agenda. It's very important. But there might be instances when you need to bring something in, or at least say, this is something that we're going to cover. We'll cover it at a future teleconference. After the teleconference, you want to, once again, contact individuals to find out whether or not they found it beneficial. You can do that through email, telephone, or once again, indirectly. It's a matter of staying on top of what's working and what isn't. And when you find out what isn't working, that's what you want to discontinue. So solicit feedback. You'll be far more effective when you do that.
I also see at the bottom left there, worksheet provided. So we have a worksheet for how to solicit feedback.
Yes, we do. So, and what I would suggest is you grab that, take a look at it, and then use the tips in there to figure out what's the best, what works for you as far as getting feedback. And here's another reminder regarding the feedback loop. What's important? It's important to practice. Then you get feedback, then you practice, and then you get feedback. And you just continue this because, after all, practice makes perfect. The project manager is the conductor. And the project manager recognizes contributors. The project manager will draw out non-participants. Very important to do. The project manager will discourage gossip. If it isn't fact, then don't spend a lot of time. If it's gossip, then you just say, hey, let's set that aside. We want to deal with the facts that we have in front of us. And another thing that the project manager wants to do as the conductor is to minimize hostage taking from certain individuals, such as the whisperer, person who speaks so softly you can barely understand them. Well, if you can't hear, no one else can hear. So you have to address that person. Next is the wanderer, the person that you ask a question and instead of being able to respond in, say, a paragraph, they respond with a book.
Yeah.
You ask them what time it is, they build you a clock. That's not helpful. You need to discourage that. And then there's the interrupter, the person who you're talking and suddenly you don't even finish and they're into asking their question or making their statement. It's extremely discourteous, to mention one thing, but it's also very disruptive, and individuals have a hard time focusing when they know that halfway through whatever they're asking or stating, the interrupter is going to be part of that. So these are individuals that need to be addressed in order to be an effective conductor.
We're coming to the last 3 slides, benefits, tips, and then take action. So, Gene, The benefits of empowerment. Once again, what are they?
Well, Cornelius, there are 4 benefits to empowerment. First, it stimulates participants to constructively engage one another. Always a good objective. Next, it focuses on getting the facts. You don't want, the gossip, as I mentioned earlier. It's the facts. That's what you have to deal with. Number 3, it provides a mechanism to address cultural differences. You really want to be attuned to that. That's where active listening comes into play. You want these people to participate. You want everybody to participate. So spend the time, give them the opportunity. And 4th, it demonstrates leadership through example. You're constantly, in essence, working the room. You ever watch a politician? They go into a room, they're working the room. Why are they working the room? Because they want to make sure that everyone understands that you, the individual, are important to them. They want to make sure that you give them feedback. You need to do the same thing in a teleconference. You need to convey that you want to listen, you want to act, and you want them to participate, because if we're going to get this thing done, if we're going to meet our deadlines, you need to participate. I want you to participate. Let me know if there's something wrong, because we will address it.
And how many tips do you have for us this time?
Well, Cornelius, this time I have 3 empowerment tips to be a productive teleconferencer. When in doubt, leave them out. And what I mean by that is, if an individual, you're not quite sure if that individual should be part of it. I know earlier, I believe I said, invite them. But you really need to give it some consideration, because if they're going to contribute, by all means, bring them in. But if there's any doubt that they are going to contribute, then you're probably better off leaving them out. And that's the same also with agenda items. If you're not quite sure, then leave it out. The next is always seek feedback. Feedback is a great corrector. You're going down the path and you might think you're going in the right direction. If you get feedback, then you might decide, I need to, tack a little to the left or a little to the right or whatever to stay on course, because that's your objective. So always seek feedback. And finally, a stitch in time saves 9. What I mean by that is, don't let misinformation reside in your meeting. It can be very destructive. It's better to remember the elephant in the room. Along those lines. You're empowered to address it now. Don't let it sit there and fester. If you do, it's going to have a negative impact on accomplishing your goals. You want to, if there's a particular person within the group that's maybe not participating, you want to address that person offline, of course, not online. But you need to constantly, as a project manager, you need to evaluate and assess so that you can make sure that you're going to achieve your goals. If you don't, then you might end up wandering, which is something you don't want to be, a wanderer.
I'd like to pull everyone's attention back to the first one that Gene has here on the tip slide. When in doubt, leave them out. And you might be wondering, how do I empower somebody by leaving them out of my meeting? Well, the point is that those who are being brought into the meeting are empowered, because those are the people who can participate, who have the power to do something. And you leave those that are really not necessary. You leave those out. And by leaving them out, you really empower them to do something else, to be working on what they're really supposed to be doing, rather than wasting their time in a meeting to which they have absolutely nothing to contribute.
I couldn't agree anymore. That's a positive way of putting it, and a very, very good way of putting it. Because what you can say is, well, I realize your time is valuable, our time is valuable. I think you need to spend your time on some other activity. And as far as what we are accomplishing here in this particular teleconference, maybe the next one is the one that you need to be in. It's time to take action. 2 items here for you. First, I want you to know that you're going to encounter all types of individuals as a leader, as a project manager in a teleconference. And what you want to do is take a look at the annoyance factor chart that I put together for disruptive characters. It's very helpful, can give you an idea of, oh yeah, that one, the whisperer, or the mumbler, or the individual that for whatever reason can never show up on time, and has some ideas on how to approach that. The next is at your next meeting, there's in the marketplace, there's called the electronic marketplace worksheet. And this is something that I put together that'll help you, once again, identify some of these individuals that you're going to encounter and what's the best way to approach them.